Over the past few weeks, Hametsu has begun to take on its final form. Playtesting has yielded some highly valuable rules adjustments, and the creative aspects for the game are flowing freely.
He will sound the alarm, and then everybody else will then go into their attack actions.
Okay. So for the sake of measuring, see if that one is closer to her or you.
Do we need to abscond? The feedback that we got from the playtest day and from the playtesters was almost entirely positive. The few things that were brought up were like simple rules edits or overlooks from version 1 of the rules, things like that. There weren't any like major issues with the game. There will always be things that we find as we get, up to the day that we're like, what about this? But it's just a matter of putting those fires out when we get there.
How did you feel like it went the other day? It was almost like a mini open day.
It was kind of, yeah. We had about 10 people that came in to play the game. They drove in from the nearby areas and they got here around 10. We did a quick tour, hung out a little bit, and we played games all day long. I think the last ones left close to 8 o'clock that night. So we had a great time. Shout out to the playtesters. They did a great job. All of the games were hilarious and fun and entertaining and exciting, and watching the playtesters just interact with the game with me like hands-free of it was really nice. It was really good to see that the game was functional, it was operational, players could sit down with the rulebook and get into the game without any advice or coaching from me or someone else. We had players there that ranged from never having played a miniature game before to people who work in game stores, and that's kind of what they do, is play games. And it was a lot of fun.
We got this email from our distributor.
That's the one.
And they're shutting down. Our distributor is shutting down. Fun Again Logistics, Fun Again Distribution, that we use to distribute our products, is shutting down. So yeah, this is there's a bit of a gut punch for us, actually.
What's great about it is without distribution, we don't have to worry about making the products we can't make because we aren't casting anything. This is
2023 is
it's on par, man.
Starting off, I think this is, with everything that's happened, this has got to be the worst start to a new year for our business that we've ever had.
It can only get better. That's not true. It could get much worse.
It could get worse.
Let's just head that one off. Business is challenging, and no matter how hard you try, things go wrong. Things that are happening outside of our control. One, our current casting situation, our resin spin casting miniatures, is changing on us. We also coming up to the point where we are running out of our MDF. We use a particular type of MDF for our laser cutters, and we had stockpiled quite a good bit of it. We knew that this time was coming, and it was just going to unfortunately coincide with this December-January slump that come off the tail of our best months, which is the fall, October and November. But we have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of wood that we're going to potentially have to buy. That has turned out to be a pretty good situation. The specific MDF that was extremely hard to find a year and a half ago when we bought the last round, we happen to potentially have another year and a half's worth just hit the shore down in Houston. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't offset our potential casting issues. Our consolidator sent out an email that said that they are going under, or maybe not going under, they're not doing business, and are future plans for distribution, which was going to be a pretty big focus of our 2023 business model. All this massive equation that an entire chunk of it is just gone. And so all the other variables start getting impacted pretty quickly.
How many of these challenges are easy to overcome with the success of a product launch?
Most of these challenges end up coming down to money. When you're running a small business like this, there are some things you can't overcome. Like, I can't influence international shipping rates or UPS service in Australia. Like, those are just things that are out of our control. But for these other things, if you have the cash, you can usually get it done. So having a successful product launch, while it not only affects things like the product we're launching, something like Hamametsu, it does give us cushion as a small business to adapt to these in a much better way. Because that's the reality of the small business is we don't have just $50,000 just sitting in a bank that's not tied up or allocated or being planned to use somewhere. It'd be nice to have that, but we don't.
To coincide with the launch of Hamametsu, the team is putting more time and effort into filming gameplay and rules breakdown videos. This has always been a highly requested aspect of any new game launch, and this time they are wanting to make sure that they don't launch without them.
It's hard enough to script, a 10-15 minute video, and then you talk about having to film like a tutorial video about something. It's way more difficult than writing rules, right? It's a lot easier for me to just write down on a piece of paper and say, here you go, here's how you do something. You figure it out. It does take a lot of work and a lot of foresight to do it efficiently. Let me say that. Anybody could get it done if they had all the time in the world and all the resources in the world, but we don't. So we have to try to be as efficient as we can with the time that we have, and that makes it much more difficult.
Doing gameplay videos is honestly pretty tricky. It's always a super highly requested aspect of any new game launch. Obviously, people want to know how the rules work and how, what type of dice it uses, what type of mechanics it has, and I think that's all super valid. I think it's just that they're incredibly time consuming, and they actually cost a fair amount to make. So for a small team like ours, it can be a little tricky to try and work them in when we're also juggling product development, rules writing, developing new terrain kits and all that kind of stuff. So this time around, we're really trying our hardest to prioritize that, because we kind of just want to see what kind of positive response it may get, and if that translates to additional sales, or maybe there's a few people that are on the fence about the game that it might kind of just nudge over the edge. So yeah, we're gonna give it a shot, kind of see how it goes. The ones that we're trying to make for Hamametsu, we're trying to spend our time, we're trying to make as many as we possibly can. We're trying to break the game down into its core elements, starting with an overview video, moving into a video about hero creation, and then kind of breaking down each aspect of the game. Things like combat, ranged combat, melee, general movement, all that kind of stuff. So we'll try and give each main aspect of the game its own sub-video. And then that way, when people are trying to decide if they think this is the game for them, then they can kind of break into those and hopefully get the answers that they need.
Ben has made a lot of progress over the past couple of weeks on sculpting the miniatures for Hamametsu. While not all of the miniatures need to be ready in time for the launch, he's pushing hard to have as many completed as possible.
Yeah, the sculpting's coming along really well, actually. I'm really happy with what we've gotten done so far. I think that the sculpts that we have finished, people seem to really like, which is always a good thing. It's got a pretty good response when we post them online, so that always makes me feel pretty good. I have almost finished all the sculpts for the heroes, like the core characters, hunters, and I'm sort of starting to move on to the Oni and some of the bosses. So I'm kind of working pretty late most nights trying to get them done. The other big thing is we've started sending miniatures over to Malev. He started putting paint on them, which is always super exciting. It's really fun when you can take something from a computer screen and print it and then have someone paint it for you. It's incredibly satisfying as a sculptor.
I think the most interesting part is traditionally when I'm painting miniatures, I'm trying to paint them for the games that I'm playing in. And that often makes how I'm painting them, the approach to painting them, and sort of the reasons, all the effort and time. It's a really different kind of thing, and often when I'm painting miniatures, I'm really just thinking about having fun. But when it comes to painting miniatures for companies like you, Blacksite and other companies and stuff, it really gives me a chance to art direct, which is a very different headspace to just painting miniatures, because I think about the stories that we're trying to tell, what the game is trying to convey, but it's in a very abstract sense of like what exactly is the feel of the paint job that should be on these models, and how should they sort of convey that to someone who sees them and as soon as they see them, they sort of understand what it is that they're looking at. I'm thinking about the world and the IP and even things like down to like how saturated are the colors or something like that, or what are the right colors. In a way when I know it's going to be photographed, that it's going to look cool, and it's when someone sees it, they'll see like the potential in the model and the potential in the paint job that makes them want to buy it, to try their hand at it, essentially. That's like the hardest part, is trying to figure out what of like a paint job with a miniature can really entice someone to want to buy it.
We got the first of those in the other day and they look incredible. He's done a really, really good job. And we give him a lot of free rein. Ultimately, I think we end up with a much better result. I don't like micromanaging other creatives if I can help it. I prefer to just give some like simple prompts and kind of let them find their own way. That's my style as a creative director anyway.
Is there anything about Ben's sculpting that sticks out as a painter?
The scale. And I think it also, with Ben's photography, that's what I think is the most interesting, is like Ben makes very realistic looking minis, and it often makes me want to paint them kind of realistic. And I think with some of the photography and that stuff, it comes through too. So for me, the thing that I notice about Ben's stuff is that the scale feels really realistic. With each new release, I feel Ben's skills increasing as I touch new models, and I remember which model it was that I wrote you last time. I was like, bro, these are amazing. Like, whoa, these are great. Like these are constantly like improving. And yeah, when I picked up those ones too, that's how I was feeling. I was like, wow, this is a really cool looking model.
What are you writing right now, and what are you most excited about writing? Or are you completely overwriting and regretting having done this in the first place?
Well, thankfully I'm not there yet.
Okay.
This is kind of back to the fun part now. Rules editing and going through and getting all the typos out and all that kind of stuff. That's never the writer's favorite part, right? No writer's like, ooh, I can't wait to go spell check myself 75 times. But it's necessary, and that's kind of where we're at now in this stage of the core rules. The core rules are built with random scenario generation, kind of like the pickup game variant of Hamametsu, which allows you to just sit down roll out some random scenarios and play with your friends. Where I'm really excited to get to go now is I've started working on the first narrative campaign, which will be included in the rule book, and it is much more narrative focused. Things are a little more scripted. There will be a lot of surprises and twists and fun things that happen to the players and the characters as they progress through this campaign.
What's it called?
It is called The Wolf and the Devil. It will take the characters through a 6 to 8 game, I'm not sure about that yet, probably 6 game campaign that will bring the characters closer towards the center of whatever caused this cataclysm, and will answer a lot of interesting questions about the origins of where these things are coming from and what's going to happen from now on in the story as far as our continual narrative campaigns go. As of right now, I've got 3 mapped out. The first one's going to come with the book, so I'm really excited to delve into these and get the players. I think these will be something that really sets the game apart from other miniature games.
We are at this point pretty close to launch. A lot of the main creative is locked. The rules are in a really good place, and we feel really confident about hitting this January 31st date. January 31st, don't forget it.